January 26, 1945, Holtzwehr, France. Through the broken window of a German aid station, a soldier from the 2nd Mountain Division watched medics carry in the wounded. His unit had just attacked with 250 men and 6 tanks against a single American lieutenant standing atop a burning tank destroyer. The American had only one weapon, however, Browning .50 caliber machine gun. Within an hour, the German assault had collapsed. 70 men remained effective. The rest lay silent in the snow, victims of a gun that had stopped them cold. It wasn't a secret weapon or a product of some hidden Allied laboratory. It was an old design, mass-produced since 1933, but it was brutally effective. It was the Browning M2 .50 caliber heavy machine gun, simple, reliable, and devastating. The survivors of Holtzwehr would remember it not as a weapon, but as a force of nature. The man behind it was First Lieutenant Audie Murphy, already wounded when he climbed onto the burning M10 tank destroyer. Alone, he turned its turret-mounted Browning on an entire German infantry company supported by armor. For over an hour, he fired relentlessly, cutting through advancing troops until the attack disintegrated. When it was over, nearly 50 German soldiers were dead. The Medal of Honor citation, signed months later by Lieutenant General Alexander Patch, would confirm the unimaginable. Murphy had held off an entire company single-handedly. German medics soon learned to identify the horrific wounds caused by the .50 caliber round. Unlike rifle bullets that might wound and allow recovery, a hit from the Browning almost always meant death. Limbs were torn away, torsos obliterated, the kinetic force shattered bone and flesh alike. Field hospitals near the front could do little except comfort the dying. Many never made it that far. The sound of the .50, deep, rhythmic, merciless, became a sound German soldiers learned to dread. It wasn't just physical devastation. It was psychological. Units under sustained .50 caliber fire often broke apart, suffering combat fatigue and paralysis of will. Soldiers reported feeling helpless, convinced that no cover could save them. From the hedgerows of Normandy to the frozen forests of the Ardennes, and from North Africa's deserts to the skies above Germany, one sound defined American firepower: the thunder of the Browning M2. Each shot carried enough energy to punch through light armor, shatter concrete, and tear through human bodies with horrifying efficiency. What the Germans faced wasn't just a machine gun. It was industrial warfare condensed into steel and lead. The transformation began years earlier, high above Germany, September 6, 1943. The skies over Stuttgart. 388 B-17. Flying fortresses approached the city, part of the first major daylight raid on Germany's industrial heartland. The Luftwaffe scrambled to intercept. Among the pilots were veterans with dozens of kills to their names. They were confident. Their Focke-Wulf 190s carried 4 20mm cannons and 2 13mm machine guns, plenty of firepower to tear bombers apart. They attacked from high and ahead, opening fire at 800 meters. But what they met wasn't the smoke of burning bombers, it was the flash of return fire. Each B-17 carried 13 Browning M2 machine guns. In a formation of just 36 aircraft, that meant 468 heavy guns firing simultaneously. The air filled with a storm of steel. 6,000 rounds per minute tore through the sky. German pilots watched tracers streak past and felt their aircraft shudder as rounds punched through wings, engines, and canopies. It wasn't an air battle. It was survival. The bombers flew on. The Luftwaffe lost dozens of fighters that day, losses it could not replace. The Americans hadn't built the most advanced gun. They'd built the most reliable one. The .50 didn't jam. It didn't overheat easily. It fired in the freezing cold at 20,000 feet and in the sweltering heat of the desert. Even after taking damage, it kept firing. Barrels could be swapped in minutes and the fight would continue. Captured German ace Wolfgang Fischer later recalled, "We called them flying fortresses, but what made them fortresses wasn't the armor. It was those .50 calibers that never stopped firing." For Luftwaffe pilots, attacking a bomber formation became a nightmare. It was like flying into a meat grinder, one survivor said. Down below, the same story was playing out on the ground. June 6, 1944, Normandy Oberst Hans von Luck of the 21st Panzer Division faced the full weight of the American invasion. A veteran of El Alamein and holder of the Knight's Cross, Von Luck expected tactical superiority to offset Allied numbers. What he found instead was overwhelming firepower. Every American vehicle, from jeeps to trucks, tanks to half-tracks, mounted a 50 caliber machine gun. Even supply convoys carried them. The Americans had achieved something the Germans had never attempted: universal heavy machine gun coverage. Von Luck later wrote in his memoir, Panzer Commander, "We had been told that training and doctrine would overcome American material advantage. At Normandy, I learned the truth. They didn't need superior tactics. They had enough ammunition to make mistakes and still win. In daylight, German soldiers couldn't move. Every hedge, every farmhouse, every field was raked by the hammering roar of the 50. To face it was to face industrial America itself. The MG-42, the pride of the Wehrmacht, could fire twice as fast, but the Americans had hundreds of 50s for every German gun. They had the ammunition to feed them endlessly, and they used it without restraint. They fired at trees, at buildings, at shadows. They called it reconnaissance by fire. It didn't matter if a German was there or not. They would fire anyway. The constant roar broke morale faster than bullets could kill. Prisoners later said, "Against the Russians, we faced human waves and artillery. Against the Americans, we faced machine guns that never stopped." After 2 weeks of fighting, soldiers refused to move during daylight. It wasn't cowardice, it was mathematics. Movement meant death. The philosophy of American firepower reached its peak with the M16 multiple-gun motor carriage, a half-track mounting 450 caliber machine guns in a single powered turret. Originally designed for anti-aircraft defense, it soon earned a new nickname, the meat chopper. At full rate of fire, it unleashed over 2,000 rounds per minute. In late 1944, with the Luftwaffe shattered, these weapons were turned on ground targets. During the Battle of the Bulge, M16s shredded German infantry attacks, leaving fields littered with bodies. Reports from the 473rd AOLA Battalion described their secondary mission, ground support, as their most effective. They could stop entire assaults by sweeping their guns across the snow. German ambush teams soon learned that American convoys were not soft targets. Their old tactics, destroying the lead and rear vehicles to trap the column, failed catastrophically. American convoy doctrine placed .50 caliber armed vehicles throughout the line. When ambushed, they responded instantly with overwhelming fire from both sides of the road. Vehicles on the right fired right. Vehicles on the left fired left. Intersecting fields of fire turned narrow French lanes into killing zones. German reports describe it simply: ambushes failed. We took more losses than the convoys we attacked. By mid-1944, German units stopped trying. The 50 caliber gun had made convoy interdiction impossible. American logistics flowed steadily forward, while German units starved for fuel and ammunition. The Browning wasn't just a weapon. It was a symbol of American industry. It existed everywhere, on every front, in every unit. Its very presence guaranteed firepower dominance. Its reliability guaranteed that the mountains of ammunition arriving from U.S. factories would be put to full use. At night, German soldiers saw the red tracers sweeping across the dark and understood what they were seeing: the glow of an empire of factories, the rhythm of unstoppable production. From the air, the terror continued. The Republic P-47 Thunderbolt, nicknamed the Jug, carried 8 Browning 50 caliber machine guns in its wings. A single P-47 could unleash 4,400 rounds per minute. A flight of 4 aircraft meant 32 guns raining fire on a target. When they came in low, there was no warning, just the scream of engines. Then the sound of bullets tearing the world apart. German troops described it as a horizontal rainstorm of metal. Stone walls crumbled. Trees snapped. Vehicles disintegrated. There was no cover, no escape. Survivors recalled, "You hear the engines. By the time you look up, they are already firing. The truck next to you disappears in flame." By the end of the war, the Browning M2 had shaped every battlefield it touched. It defended bombers in the skies, shattered tanks on the ground, guarded convoys, cleared trenches, and broke the will of those who faced it. It wasn't the fastest gun, nor the most advanced, but it was the most relentless, the most enduring. In the hands of soldiers, airmen, and tank crews, it became more than metal. It became the sound of American dominance, the hammer of democracy echoing across Europe and beyond. And when the guns finally fell silent in 1945, the Browning M2 remained. 8 decades later, it still serves unchanged, unbroken, and undefeated. A weapon so perfect, even time itself has failed to improve it. The .50 caliber machine gun, the legend born in fire and never forgotten.